Low traffic neighbourhoods are ruining your lives. You better start objecting cause you're running out of time. The realisation is the root of the minds. Get rid of woke culture mantra. Get out and vote as the answer. You are just a wee bit more of a protester. More than half of the time.
No to control. Yeah, apparently we're right-wing and fascist.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, apparently anyone who disagrees with the council, or Khan, or anyone for that reason, it's automatically branded as being right-wing and fascist.
Well, once again outside Islington Town Hall, what do we find but another demonstration? And yet again, it's the same old problem. This time with a few little new caveats. But what is interesting about it is, instead of it being LTNs and cyclists and pro and anti, that's livable streets. It's a new name, but fundamentally, there are the same issues underlying why this crowd is here today. Let's go find out. Okay, Nick, obviously there's a large crowd here, and that's largely down to something very different that's been going on. I believe there's been targeted leafleting.
Yeah, we've got an organisation. We've got two organisations actually. We've got Keep Islington Moving, which is kind of an umbrella organisation, and then we've got Keep Barnsbury Moving, which is specifically fighting these plans to turn Barnsbury into a low-traffic neighbourhood. They talk about livable Barnsbury, but we frankly don't trust the council anymore. We think it's just a war on cars, and they want to close off roads and destroy the really nice community and low-traffic area which is Barnsbury today.
I mean, actually, I thought, living here myself for 25 years, it's actually been relatively low traffic for the greater part of it.
It is.
Historically,
right?
they've had such roadblocks over the years, and it's quite a quiet sort of place to be in general anyway.
Barnsbury really is very quiet, and the only effect of the council's plans, we think, will just be to send more cars onto the boundary roads like Liverpool Road and Holloway Road and so on.
That's right, and also there are some new boundaries as such in terms of wards as well, isn't there? Because there's the new Laycock
We're very
ward.
suspicious of the fact that Barnsbury is being conflated with Laycock, because we suspect that is just so that they can say that Offord Road is not a boundary road, and therefore they can close it off.
But those
frankly, we think that will be a disaster.
And rather disaster for those people residing in Wheelwright Street, which is already subject to quite a substantial amount of traffic, isn't it?
Exactly. So if you block off Offord Road, which has a certain amount of traffic, because it is an important through road and always has been, then that traffic will go somewhere else onto neighbouring roads like Wheelwright Road.
Now, something else I did notice, there's a recent meeting for the Caledonian ward, which actually I was able to attend with some people from the Keep Islington Moving group, and it was very interesting there, because there's three councillors, and one of those councillors is Councillor Paul Convery, and he seems very intent on saying we don't need to have low traffic neighbourhoods per se with roads being cut off and the likes, as it were, because he considered that it was too critical an area. It already had its own problems itself and could only cause more problems if these actual LTNs were in. And he insisted that the livable neighbourhoods, livable streets as he terms them, was in fact very distinctly different and wouldn't involve the fines and the likes, but improving things like paving, improving things like greenery areas and so on. He seemed very, very positive. Do you think that somewhere in a chink of the armour of Islington Council that the likes of Paul Convery are actually understanding these matters and actually relating to people who have these issues about the LTNs as they've been brought in?
Yeah. I wasn't at that meeting, but I did hear that he he made some what sound to be like very sensible comments, and I can only hope that he has a different view from the rest of the council, who seem to be hell-bent on just attacking cars, when it seems to me that the needs of the residents of the Cali ward, certainly, and I'd argue the Barnsbury ward, are that quite a lot of people rely on cars for one reason or another, perfectly valid reasons, like they're disabled or they want to use taxis, or or particularly they're small businesses who rely on cars and vans, and they will be severely disadvantaged, and they will vote with their feet eventually if this goes ahead, and they will close down and leave the area, and the whole place will become a ghost town. So that's the sort of thing which worries me.
David Ilkay-Cinko, Keep Barnsbury Moving. I want you to tell me your take on this yourself, and why are you here today?
As a resident of the borough, I'm very concerned that there's a democratic deficit going on in this borough. This is now the third so-called consultation which has been packed by special interest groups where we can't get in. I've voted against every single questionnaire the council have sent on this particular matter, and I feel my views are being ignored. I would be called by Sadiq Khan probably a right-wing fascist, but I'm not. I'm an ordinary borough dweller.
We have heard these very unpleasant terms used by the Mayor of London, and we'd imagine that the Mayor is, whatever persuasion he is politically, he should be serving all of London, surely.
Well, I kind of think exactly. When you don't like other people's views, you start invading the Ukraine and places like that. So I think we've got to be more tolerant and more pluralist, and keep democracy going if we at all can.
So we're missing a problem here, aren't we? Basically, democracy looks like it's been bitten at the heels and is limping.
It's been emasculated.
Yes, your words. And it doesn't look...
It's outrageous.
Isn't it noticeable, though,
it's corruption.
2/3 of people aren't turning out to vote? Why would that be?
Because they don't believe the system works. And it's possible the council didn't tell them there's an election.
Well, yes, and of course, if 1/3 of people turn out and then they perhaps get a majority of that, is that really a majority of the electorate?
You can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink, and to my mind, if you provide the apparatus for representation and you're too apathetic to go and take advantage of it, then you must expect what you get. When you do take the trouble to turn out and you're ignored, that's a different question entirely, and that's why we're here shouting and screaming.
So here we are at the seat of democracy, Islington Town Hall. How democratic is it for you?
It isn't at all. If you write to Rowena, she never writes back. You can't get any...
But hang on a minute, let me just right. You're actually not just saying, you're writing to these councillors,
yes,
and they're not responding.
No.
But surely that's their responsibility to you as constituent.
And there was a big meeting in West Library, and there were 200 people outside, and she went ahead with her meeting with only a slightly biased selection of people in it.
No traffic ideologies, and well, that's a new one on us. We've seen a lot of signs over the years. That's a new one. Ideologies. I mean, so this is how they're coming across in Islington now, is it?
Well, it's what it's about. There isn't the evidence base. They've had some trial areas. They're a disaster. But basically, there isn't a problem. Walking here from where I live in the heart of Barnsbury, hardly passed any cars.
Now, what actually brought you here today? What was the motivation today?
I object to the process that's going on. At present, we've got very few plans of any specificity. So, people don't know what to oppose. This is called community engagement. It's not consultation. It's not consultation. Consultation is a stage in law. And at the point of consultation, you have to have plans of some specificity. But the amount of consultation you have depends on the circumstances. So what local authorities do, and I worked in law with local government all my life.
Okay.
What local authorities commonly do is they have lots and lots of voluntary engagement where nobody can really fully oppose it because there are no plans. They can stack it however they like. It doesn't have to be open and even and transparent. My wife attended a Zoom call, hundreds of people, almost all of whom were pro. Yet when there was the library business, which you probably know about.
We recall.
Yeah, well, I've seen the film of it, so you know what I'm talking about.
Well, it was our production company.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but then you had to take it down from the internet. But the point I'm trying to make is this. When it comes to consultation, as the authority, you're allowed to say, oh, well, we don't need an awful lot because we had a lot of voluntary engagement. This is not a joke. This is actually how it works.
Right.
By the time of consultation, they've lowered the bar of what they need formally in law, and they can rely on community engagement, which of course they can stack how they like because it's voluntary. And at the point of consultation, they've got all their specific, fairly specific plans. Everybody's invested, authority, expensive consultants, officers. So actually the whole system, the way it works, it's the way a lot of the planning process works.
Well, this is obviously a lot of a foresight stuff, so they actually clearly know what they're actually doing, and presumably they know what they want to introduce.
Well, yes, but they're not.
But are they giving us disclosure?
No, they'll have to at the stage of consultation. But as I say, how much consultation they have to do depends on the circumstances. They can say we had all these meetings and everyone was for it.
Would it surprise you to know that in our research, as we're researching the subject too, because obviously we need to validate people's points and answers, one of the things we did discover was at Islington several years ago that they dropped the standard consultation process. And now you know yourself with the experience of you just stated to us that that's a process that's adopted by all councils up and down England and Wales, so that you have inclusivity for people who cannot be reached, say, electronically, for example. And they decided that the way to do it would have a consultation, and they did actually state at the meeting, without that process if that process was in place, they'd have never got off the ground. And they did say afterwards that because we chose a consultation process of our own devising, that's how we were able to go ahead. But that's a very worrying trend.
It's a very cynical attitude, but I wouldn't begin to say it was exclusive to Islington. But I mean, for there to be consultation in law, the plans have to be fairly specific, not final, fairly specific, and we haven't got them now, so this is not consultation.
No, there are a lot of people who come out here today. They've come out here in weeks gone by, months, and now years gone by, and it's as strong as it ever was. In fact, what we've seen is an additional amount of different people come from the area. We've seen more people coming out who we've never seen before, making it very vocally clear what they want. But have you noticed that it appears to be like a drain? It's as though people are coming out, and what are they fighting against? It's difficult to fight against something if you can't define it.
Well,
what would you like to define that you're opposing?
I want to
against
see the specific proposals. All we know so far is traffic islands with one point of ingress and one point of egress. Now we know what that means, which is that there'll be a huge pile-up at each end getting in and getting out, and there'll only be one route to your home. What we're told is that you may not be able to go into an island unless you're registered, in which case what's going to happen? I can't go and visit someone else in Islington, quite a big borough, and what's going to happen with taxis, with deliveries? Nobody knows.
Well, these are great worries, aren't they? Because what they're really doing is they're providing gated communities that some people might enjoy very much. But there are other people who are going to suffer within those communities and outside of those communities. It's a bit like splendid isolation, but not so splendid for everybody.
gated communities isn't quite right because the gated community can dictate, they can bring their cars in and all the rest of it. But I mean, they're imposing their idea of our way of life way, way beyond what we understand a local authority should be able to do.
And yet they do claim that they had voted it in with a mandate from the electorate.
How many people, look, this is a pure Labour borough, you know, nobody votes anything but Labour.
So how can that be representative of the entire electorate?
And who reads local authority manifestos? Few of us read central government ones.
What do you feel the solution should be for the people of Islington? And although whichever party might be in, surely should not all the electorate benefit from the skill sets that are on offer, rather than being told it's this way or the highway? Or not the highway, as the case may be.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a very dangerous idea, this. It's going far too far. I mean, my wife takes the dog out last thing at night. I shall worry if there aren't the occasional car, you know.
What message, if you could deliver a personal message to the council and they see this online, what sort of message would you like to just fairly square with them that you're unable to get to them?
Either drop this or be upfront and release the real plans now, well ahead, so that we can have a serious discussion on the actual things you intend to do to us. Stop doing to us what you decide is right for us.
Becky, you've got a clipboard in your hand. That suggests that someone's going to be in for something from you. What's happening with you tonight?
Well, I've come down tonight as a sham consultation. David, do you have tickets?
No, I don't.
No, you don't have tickets.
I couldn't get them.
Because they didn't give you a chance. So I'm gathering people's views on some labels, because inside is a map exercise. And there are some tiny little stickers that the cycle lobby are in there right now, and they're sticking it on saying, I'd like a parklet here, I'd like that road closed, and this is how this is going to go. So if they've asked for a consultation, they're going to bill it as a consultation, then I'm going to give them people's views and I'm going to stick my own stickers on these maps. Because what happened was that a lot of residents didn't have their chance to get tickets, like yourself, because I received an email at 10 o'clock in the morning from the cycle lobby saying, Barnsley consultation's going down.
How very kind of them.
Get your tickets quick. There was no publication from the council anywhere until 5 o'clock that evening. That gave the cycle lobby 7 hours head start to nab all the tickets, you know. So what happened at the library the last time when the meeting was cancelled, they've retired to their chambers and they thought, how do we make this better? How do we make this better? How do we limit public engagement? I tell you what, we'll make it a ticketed event, and I tell you what, we'll make sure the cycle lobby get first dibs, and we will make it a consultation where we get the views that we want.
Now I'd like to know a little bit more about this cycle lobby. We hear so much about them. We all like cycling, it's great. We all love fresh air, but I'm a little bit disturbed that they seem to be getting in before everybody else. That doesn't sound very fair.
Yeah.
How do they get the first shout? Are they at these meetings at the organisational side? Are they invited in? Are they invited in as lobbyists? What is the pecuniary interest that they have?
Well, I've done a lot of research over Cycle Islington. I've read their minutes. Their minutes go back a long time, you know. I didn't know there was a consultation about Hybrid Corner, but the cycle lobby did. And they were actually given a chance to draft a response to the plans. You know, I didn't get that say, you know, because I was asleep then, David. And, you know, when I woke up and you look through these minutes of their monthly meetings that they actually hold here, and Rowena actually attends as well, and you'll see that they had a crayon and paper night for St. Peter's where they drew the maps. They called it a crayon and paper night. And
Did they now?
And it's in the minutes. And they drew the maps and they gave it to Islington and said, this is how you create a low traffic neighbourhood. And you know, because...
They treat them in a kindergarten fashion. It's that much of a joke to them, is it? That does, and I have to say, it's unusual to say things like that, but that seems like a joke because that is not appreciating the wider community whose interests are going to be affected by this scheme.
Because they're the only voices at the table. This is why we get all the vitriol thrown at us because now our voices are at the table. And they don't like it one bit, you know, because they have had their own way for far too long. Every consultation going, they steamroll it because they are active participants. And I call them the noisy minority.
Stephen, yet another veteran, yet another demonstration. A lot of new faces this time. What do you make of that?
Well, no, it shows people are waking up. People are not going to stand for it.
You're going to be going inside very shortly. You've got yourself you're able to actually gain entry.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did that, but that's amazing.
Right.
I couldn't.
No,
so
because the tickets went before anyone knew they was available.
Well, doesn't seem very fair, does it?
It's not very fair. Cycle lobby's got it all sewn up.
Right.
Anything you want to do, they're in there first.
I'm hearing this again and again, that it's not just cyclists, and we all like cycling, but cycle...
One, yeah?
That's right.
Well, me and Peter in the wheelchair, we was the first two in that meeting. We was the first two in there. When we got in there, there was half a dozen cycle lobbies down there. So how does that work?
So they're already ahead of the game?
They're already in there.
Yeah. Actually, it's a little known fact, unless you look in the papers, but buried deep in 2 weeks ago, did you know that Haringey Council were paying a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of pounds, to a cycling lobby, the LCC, so I believe, for their advice?
Well, you probably find it ain't just Haringey, it's probably most of the boroughs.
That's what I was going to ask you. How many other boroughs are seeking advice?
These road closures only suit one person, that's the cycle lobby, because it ain't suiting us. It's not helping us with taxis, with buses, not buses, but ambulances, fire brigade, police. It ain't helping us with nothing like that. You can't go anywhere. You've got 3 times the journey you've got to have to get anywhere now. So who's winning out of it?
No, I suppose it's true, isn't it? Because if there's one thing that anyone owns in life, it's their own time, isn't it? And if you're going to make that triple or quadruple in terms of being able to achieve anything, then you're putting a hardship on someone, aren't you?
Listen, I'm disabled, right? So I've got nothing but time. But I still don't want to spend 3/4 of it trying to get to somewhere. If it's going to take me that long, I'm not going to go there. But then I think that's what they want, with the 15-minute zones and all that.
Isn't this clear discrimination against a disabled class of people?
No, it's clear discrimination against anyone who ain't with the cycle lobby, in my opinion. Look, I'm disabled. I'd love to stand there and say, you know, disabled this, disabled that, but I'm not going to. I don't want privileges because I'm disabled. I want everyone to have the right of way. Not just me, everybody. I don't deserve it because I can't walk. I want everybody to have the same thing.
Well, that is a really very, very decent thing of you to say, because I'm sure a lot of other people might decide that is the case, as I did when I asked you the question, and I think you very eloquently answered it for everyone, Steve Havens. I know you've got to get inside there now. Enjoy your spot. Let us know afterwards how you fared. And finally, Mark, yet again. How are you keeping, first of all, in this cold weather?
Yeah, not bad, you know. Like all of us, all coughs and colds and everything, but I braved the elements to come out tonight for this. Mind you, it was under the council paying lip service. They've got their agenda. You've got the little minions saying, oh, it's this, that and the other, but it's just, look, we all know they've got their agenda and they're going to carry it through. Whatever we say to them in there ain't going to make a blind bit of difference.
So what would you encourage people to take from that?
You've got to keep them fighting, because now the cracks are beginning to show. They're getting worried, these people.
Well, certainly we've noticed something. It's freezing. I mean, well, you viewers don't know this, but I tell you what, it's jolly cold out here. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of new faces that we've seen here. We know there's been leafleting campaigns. We know there's been new groups set up to deal with this. That's obviously a very positive matter in terms of trying to get the council to listen. Yeah. Is that the right way forward to continue doing that? And is there anything else that people should consider?
Well, I want to come back to one of the things you said, a lot of new faces, because sadly, with people, it's a case of there's not been that much exposure, but also if it doesn't affect me, I don't really know about it, because they do it on the QT, this mob. They do one little bit at a time. They do that. It's like the old British Empire thing, divide and conquer. But as I've been in this so-called consultation tonight, there was one elderly gentleman there who came out with a great question. He said, look, you've got this great big plan out here with all these roads and everything, and you're saying you're going to do this, going to do that, but what exactly is the problem what this is your suggested solution to. Well, what is the problem? They're creating the problem. I mean, look, if you're closing down roads, you're forcing more traffic onto it. And I actually accused them, and this comes back to something what Rowena Champion lied to my face a couple of summers ago, is that this is part of a jigsaw puzzle where you force all the traffic onto main roads. We know that Islington Council, via a Freedom of Information order request, the reply was received in January, the end of 2022, where £330,000 was put forth by the government at the very start of the COVID pandemic for social distancing. Islington, who claimed the right skin, pulled up £511,000 out of their coffers and money. And
that's over £500,000.
£511,000.
Good grief.
It's on the Freedom of Information, I can get it for you. And via 3 different schemes, Khan put forward £1.2 million. So they had £2.1 million for the cameras and planters and everything. At the time of the reply, at the end of January 2022, they'd received £6.2 million in fines. I now understand that's up to £10 million they've received. But the point is that they're forcing all the traffic onto main roads where the cameras are. TfL, as far as I'm aware, own the main roads, but all the side roads and the back roads are owned by the council. So, what you do, you force all the traffic onto main roads, Khan's got his cameras up, and this ties in with Ulis. It's all one big plan. So once he's got his cameras up for Ulis, then the road charging will come in, which is something I asked Rowena Champion about 2 years ago. She had no knowledge, and someone brought up the minutes of a meeting where it was discussed. She signed it off, said there. I said, well, you've just lied to me. She hung her head, looked at the ground, looked at me, I went, you've lied to my face. This is all about getting the road charging in. We all want all good quality air, but explain to me, if you're forcing all the traffic, look, if you've got a 4-inch tube for your water, for your bathroom, you can't put in a 2-inch tube and get the same amount of water through. So you're actually putting more cars on the road, and when you're stuck in traffic jams, cars are toe to toe. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Whereas when the car's driving, like if you look now, there's a gap of, say, 15, 20 foot between them. Well, that means over a space of 100 yards, you've got less cars when the cars are moving freely. When you're stuck in traffic jams, because also they've rephased the lights in a lot of places, of course you're going to get congestion, you're going to get more emissions, which suits their data. So the situation has been manipulated or massaged so that they get their own data. And then recently, here, this will make you laugh, they've got Imperial College, who used Islington's own data, didn't use their own data, plus they also, it was exposed by someone, they also used the wrong roads, okay, to bring forward this survey or whatever you want to call it, which is flawed. Now, incidentally, Imperial College, that's where Neil Ferguson was, the man who's responsible for about the foot and mouth things where thousands upon thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of cattle was killed. He's also the geezer that told the government you're going to be losing 5,000, 10,000 people deaths per day down to COVID. It's flawed.
Low traffic neighbourhoods are ruining your lives. You better start objecting cause you're running out of time. The realisation is the root of the minds. Get rid of woke culture mantra. Get out and vote as the answer. You are just a wee bit more of a protester. More than half of the time.